Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live. My name is Brandon Drumm. I'm here with Parker Thune. We apologize for the technical difficulties. We did not see that come in. We were talking about Oklahoma being 10 days away, basically 9 days since the day's almost over, from kicking off the 2022 football season against the University of Texas El Paso Miners, formerly known as Texas Western. If you've watched the great Glory Road Disney movie about the all-black team, first all-black team to ever win a national title. Pretty awesome stuff. But yeah, Oklahoma, Brent Venables, team 128, going to be kicking off on September 3rd at home. I know everybody's hoping that it's not going to be blazing hot, that it's about, 80, 75, 80 degrees at kickoff would be fantastic for a lot of people. But we all know September 3rd, Labor Day weekend, is going to be a scorcher. So get hydrated now. Get hydrated now. A lot of people fall out during those, so it's always wild to see from the press box. I know you've seen that too before, Parker, from down below when you see all the medical people. It's crazy to watch happen. So I always feel bad for those people. But yeah, Oklahoma football, baby. Recruiting. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about a lot of things on this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live. We're glad to join you. Mark, hey, in the comments, talk about it. Ask us questions. Let us know where you're watching from. We always love to see that. See how far and widespread this Sooner Nation is. We love to see that as well. Parker, man, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Brandon. And of course, we're not too far away, about 48 hours, in fact, if that, from a couple of very high-profile decisions for priority Sooner targets. Obviously, I think that's going to be tops on most people's minds right now, both Makari Vickers and Anthony Evans committing on Friday. But arguably the bigger story, and I think what people are buzzing about, perhaps even more so across the entirety of the fan base, as opposed to the fan base that is laser focused on recruiting, which is kind of a smaller niche within the fan base itself. We're getting real close to football time, and 10 days away at this point in time. There are a lot of questions that are still left not entirely answered. Got a good idea right now. Obviously, we know Dylan Gabriel is going to be the one slinging the football, know who many of his weapons are going to be. But I think what's going to be interesting over this last week and a half of preseason practice before the Sooners hit the field with UTEP is, can so many of these true freshmen that have had really, really strong fall camps continue to push the veterans in front of them to the point where they could earn their way onto the field quite a bit in the first two games of the season, the way that guys like Danny Stutzman and Ethan Downs did a year ago. And we've talked about plenty of those guys on this YouTube Live that we do every week at this point. We've also talked about it quite a bit over on the OU Insider VIP board. Guys like R. Mason Thomas, Jaden Gibson, Gavin Sawchuk and Javonte Barnes, Jacob Sexton along the offensive line. So many true freshmen right now among this class incoming at the University of Oklahoma have performed very, very well over the course of fall camp. And that's an unambiguously good thing for any football program, because regardless of how much those freshmen play in year one, they're pushing the older guys and they're making them earn their keep. And they're making them earn their snaps, every single one. They've got to fight off somebody who's younger and just as hungry, if not hungrier, than they are to see the football field. So really, really encouraged by the progress that we're seeing from some of these true freshmen. And obviously it is, as it has been for the last 6 or 7 weeks at least, a really, really good time to be following OU recruiting, as so many of you that are tuning in and are VIPs over on OUinsider.com know and know well.
Yeah, it's look, the young guys, I think, is what everybody wants to see. They want to see Oklahoma come out, bum rush UTEP, and they want to see R. Mason Thomas. They want to see Javonte Barnes, Gavin Sawchuk. They want to see, which I think you're going to see Jaden Gibson anyways. I think that's a guy that obviously is going to get a lot of playing time. But I want to see Nicholas Anderson. I don't know how much playing time he's going to be. He's going to get in that rotation. Obviously, he's had a good fall camp, but he's not Jaden Gibson yet. Jaden Gibson's been on another level. He's made some miraculous plays. He's been quite phenomenal this fall camp. And we talked about it over and over and over on OU Insider. And then On top of that, you have Brent Venables, which we will hint at a little bit. I got a little nugget for y'all on OU Insider VIP. Brent Venables, that turnip seed, they've been working on some things as far as the program goes, some facility things. And if you go over to OU Insider VIP, I dropped that nugget a few days ago, and it is a quite interesting what they're going to do and what they need to have done by mid-September to get some things rolling. And it will be pretty special. I think that's about as good as we can hint on that. But I mean, yeah, there's a lot of good things going on with the Oklahoma program, even on the recruiting trail. People with the Anthony Evans stuff, people are, kind of upset. They're a little bit nervous about what's going to happen. I think he's going to go to UGA. But on the flip side, guess what? You have a higher rated player that nobody is even talking about that has an announcement on the 26th that's going to bump Oklahoma up in the top 5 in recruiting if he commits to Oklahoma, and that's Makari Vickers, 4-star defensive back out of Tallahassee. So everything is still moving in the right direction for Oklahoma. And I know there's been buzz about Colton Vasek and Texas and all that. Look, I talked to Colton Vasek today again. I'm going to go down and see him. What is it? Next week, Parker? Is that when I said I was going to go see him? I think in the second, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
next week.
I know. I sent you the schedule I was going on. But we try to like line up so we don't like cross each other the whole time and go to the same, because it's probably pointless. So we send each other our schedules and everything. So, but yeah, he hit me up. He was like, dude, I don't know where this Texas stuff is coming from. Like, I'm all Oklahoma. I have plans to visit Oklahoma, and that's it. So there's a lot of things going on. I know there's been a Texas reporter kind of hinting Colton Vasek in Texas. He adamantly, and I just vehemently denies it. Like, just no, I am not going to Texas. I'm going to Oklahoma. So I think things are still good there. So, I mean, look, a lot of positive things working in Oklahoma's favor, Jordan or not. I mean, Parker, you tell me. The main hiccup, I guess, throughout Venables' time, would you say Gundy is literally the only hiccup he's had in 9 months?
I don't know if it's the only hiccup, but definitely the most conspicuous hiccup, and probably the only hiccup that's been consequential in a tangible manner. So, yeah, other than that little blip on the radar, it has been smooth sailing.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. So I guess another thing is, and we talked about this on our podcast. So we just dropped the podcast earlier today, the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast. You can get it on. It's up on YouTube. It's up on iTunes, Stitcher, Audible, Spotify, you name it. Whatever you want to watch your podcast on or listen to, it's on there. But we talked about this, Parker, yesterday, and I guess we can kind of address it a little bit more general today. Oklahoma's defense, if you're looking for one thing that is going to take over, and I know the easy answer is defensive line. That's the easy answer. Outside of the defensive line, what are you looking for this Oklahoma defense to take that next step in 2022 and be more along the lines of what Venables is used to defensively?
Well, I think what's encouraging if you're an Oklahoma fan is that you have a legitimate lockdown corner in Woody Washington, one of the best in the conference, if not the country, when he's fully healthy, which I don't think he was last year, even after coming back from injury. But you rewind to 2020, he was superb. And so when you're talking about defending the pass, and that is still a necessity in the Big 12, although the game has changed somewhat and it's not all out air raid the way it was 6 or 7 years ago, teams in the Big 12 in general still throw the ball quite a bit. And so you have to be able to defend the pass. Mm-hmm. First step towards being able to defend the pass effectively is just having that guy, that shutdown corner that you can line up opposite the opponent's best receiver and know that he's going to take care of business. What's interesting to me when I look at this defense's makeup heading into 2022 is that the Sooners have the opportunity to have not just one, but two of those cornerbacks. And it's Woody Washington. And see, this is the question to me. Who is it opposite him? Because Jaden Davis has had a phenomenal camp. DJ Graham has played some really good ball at times. Physically, Josh Eaton might have the highest ceiling of any cornerback in or on Oklahoma's roster. It just hasn't really all come together for him yet, but he's been impressive as well. Kendall Dennis is a guy that's made strides. CJ Colton has played a ton of football dating back to his days at Wyoming. And there's a lot of reason to believe that Kenai Walker is going to bring some excitement when he sees the field. So many dudes that are going to be in competition to start opposite Woody Washington or take significant snaps opposite Woody Washington, regardless of who starts. It seems like Davis is the leader in the clubhouse right now. But I think if you have two cornerbacks that you can count on to give you shutdown performances week in and week out, it's going to make life very difficult for opposing quarterbacks and offensive coordinators. I mean, if the Sooners have one decent cornerback last year against Texas, is that game even close? Because Xavier Worthy did the vast majority of the offensive damage for UT, and he did it against a true freshman in Latrell McCutcheon, because you had Woody Washington out in that game. You had Delarian Turner-Yell out in that
first
game.
play was Jaden Davis, though. First play was Jaden Davis.
Jaden Davis got exploited on that first play as well. But the point being, if Oklahoma has two legit shutdown cornerbacks, and we know for sure they have one. We know for sure they have one right now. But if you got two shutdown cornerbacks in 2022, life is going to be hellish for opposing Big 12 quarterbacks and offensive coordinators as they try to move the ball down the field, because we know, as with any Brent Venables defense, there is going to be strength and there is going to be effective play on the front seven. To me, the biggest question mark for Oklahoma, as it has been for really the past decade, is the secondary. And it's not for lack of talent. It's just at a certain point, you have to see consistent play in the secondary to believe it. And we haven't seen it at Oklahoma for quite some time. We've seen flashes. We have not seen consistency. So if the Sooners can cultivate that, particularly at the cornerback position, they have the opportunity to be a really, really good defensive unit in 2022.
Absolutely. Look, I'm with you on the secondary part, because I feel like the front seven is pretty solid for Oklahoma. Look, depth-wise, I think linebacker is lacking at depth. But they're talented. And when I say lacking at depth, I'm talking experience. I'm talking, guys that are going to come in and potentially play majority mistake-free football. And I don't know that they're there yet. I mean, I think Kip Lewis is going to be great. I think Kobe McKenzie is going to be great. I think Jaron Connect's going to be great. I think Shane Witter has a chance to be great at some point. But outside of the first three, there's questions, right? I mean, there's a lot of questions there at linebacker. So I think depth at linebacker is going to be key, because that's a physical position. Injuries happen. They happen. And I think they're going to need that. I think similarly, safety for me is where it's at. I think, and Parker, we talked about this. We talked about it at the practice yesterday. We talked about it on the podcast last night, how massive OU's safeties are. I mean, they're large human beings, man. Like when we were talking about, Parker and I are over 6 foot, and Harrington and Key Lawrence and Jordan Mukes make us look just like normal human beings and height wise. I'm around 6'1", 220 pounds. I'm a big guy, a little over probably 6 foot, 6'1". You're close 6'1", 6'2". And I mean, there's just like those guys are huge. They're huge guys. Like it's crazy to stand and look at. So size isn't going to be the question. Depth is going to be the question. Jordan Mukes is probably a year away from being that guy in the secondary. They feel like 2023 is going to be his coming out party as far as how he's going to play in the secondary and what they expect of him in the secondary, because it's such an intricate and just a in-depth playbook that Venables calls defensively. But you have Justin Harrington, who plays nickel, who plays free safety, who plays some corner at times. Like they have him going everywhere. He is essentially going to be Oklahoma's Isaiah Simmons. He's going to be that guy that they line up everywhere. He fits that mold. Isaiah, Roy Williams, Dante Nicholson. Anybody remember Dante Nicholson? That guy could ball. I mean, those are the type of guys that Venables has made into superstars because of what they could do and just all the, I guess, the variety. Tony Jefferson's another guy. I mean, these dudes played everywhere and they played everywhere, and they made that defense staunch because of it. And I think that's the most important part is the safety position. And Brandon Hall is a great coach. You're talking about a guy that's been a defensive coordinator. He came up under Venables. He knows the system. He's been around from like 1999 to I believe like 2008, 2009 at Oklahoma as a defensive assistant and everything like that. Went out and made his own mark at Troy for like 9 or 10 years, became the defensive coordinator and the interim head coach at Troy. He's one of the rising stars in all college football as far as assistant coaches go. So they have a really good coach there, a guy that can recruit because he's the guy that came in instantly. Look, he helped bring in a lot of the transfers that came in this past Can I Walker, CJ Cold, and Trey Morrison. Like, these are Brandon Hall has his handprint all over these guys. So he can do all those things. And he brought in Eric McCarty, the very first commitment in the 2023 class. So to me, I think that is probably the biggest question mark, but it's the depth. It's not the starters. It's the depth. Billy Bowman, Key Lawrence, Justin Harrington. You know what you're going to get out of those guys. You know what you're going to get. Like Justin Broyles. I know I said his name. Parker. Justin Broyles. He's going to be a good player for Oklahoma no matter where he plays. But backing up those four guys, big question mark, right? Like Oklahoma, we don't know what they're going to get out of those guys. Trey Morrison going to be that dude at the nickel behind Harrington. He's a lot smaller. Who's going to be the backup strong safety? Who's going to be the backup free safety? Like, these are questions that need answered. And that can be the difference between an injury and you losing a game because of something bad happening, or you don't see that much of a drop off and you continue to charge towards a Big 12 and a national title hopes. So I don't know. Do you agree with me on that? I don't know. Am I off?
No, I'm with you. And I think there's merit in what you're saying. I think there's enough depth though that you can have some confidence that somebody's going to emerge, even if you can't really pinpoint who it's going to be.
Yeah.
There's so much quality depth across that entire defense. So maybe it is Trey Morrison. Maybe it's the 5'9" transfer from North Carolina, or maybe Jordan Mukes or Robert Spears Jennings, or even Jaden Rowe starts to emerge. And those guys are almost a different species than Trey Morrison, right? There's some diversity across the defensive backfield in particular in terms of body type, in terms of style of play, but there's just so much talent across the board that you're going to, even if you can't pinpoint exactly what the lineup or what the two deep is going to look like for Oklahoma, you can have some degree of confidence that regardless of who comprises the two deep, it's going to be composed of football players that know what they're doing and can make plays on Saturdays.
Yeah, look, and we have people in the comments saying, Isaiah Simmons was center field safety. He did play center field safety, but he also played in the box. They had him going everywhere. That is what made him such a household name, was just how versatile he was in the secondary. He could line up as one of the linebackers, and then he would be back at free safety. He'd play the nickel. He even played man-to-man corner at times against people because he was that versatile. And they feel they have that same type of athlete in Justin Harrington. The mental aspect is going to be the big question, because Isaiah Simmons came up like it was a slow process for him. Freshman, sophomore, junior year, boom, he was big time. They're asking Justin Harrington to be that dude year one after he didn't even really play football last year because he quit halfway through it. So, I mean, there's a lot of things, and talk about a story. Like, if he becomes a household name, that is going to be the big story of college football this year. Is this dude quit, was down on his luck. Venables gave him a second chance, showed mercy, and it paid off big time for him. I kind of can't wait for that game day.
We'll make
story.
A documentary about it.
Yes, they will. Offensively. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the offense. outside of Dylan Gabriel, we all expect him to be really good. We all expect the offensive line to be a strength of the Sooners team this year, like it should be. There is a ton of talent. They're deep. There's some experience there. There's some non-experience in the second team, but there's a lot of experience throughout the first top 8 guys or so, a ton actually. So outside of those two, you said it yesterday, and I'm going to let you say it again. Who's that guy that you think is going to be the game changer for Oklahoma offensively?
I can pick any position here. Brandon, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is I can pick any position? Can you not hear me anymore?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're just lagging.
Interesting. Okay. Third time's the charm. So basically you're telling me I can pick any position on offense, just identify a game changer.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, you're lagging for some odd reason on your end. But look, I know you got Braden Willis, that's who you were talking about. For me, I think it's Eric Gray. I think Eric Gray is the easy pick. I think that it's very, I don't know. He's got to be that guy that has 1,300 yards or so. Like he has to. And for Oklahoma to be really good. And I think the running back position as a whole needs to be consistent. And that means Marcus Major, who has had questions about consistency for years, is now kind of got to be that guy that each and every week he makes plays. He doesn't just show flashes. It's there each and every week. If it's not going to be there, look, Javonte Barnes, Gavin Sawchuk, Tawi Walker, Bentavious Thompson, there's depth there. They're going to be right behind him, nipping at his heels, and things can go real quick, real fast, and change for you in that running back room because DeMarco Murray's built that thing up into a talented group. It might be the strongest group in all of the offense, in my opinion. And I really don't know if that's debatable. Do you?
I think it's certainly the deepest. And I think the hope is that as we've been told and talking to program sources, there's a belief that the offensive line might end up being pound for pound the best unit on the entire offensive side of the ball for Oklahoma. And I think your hope is that that's the case, because if you have elite play up front, it sets the table for everybody else. And I was on the radio today. We were having a conversation about what the picture is going to look like at running back and what the how the carries are going to get divvied up, essentially. And I think it's pretty clear right now, Eric Gray is the lead guy. I don't think there's really any doubt about that. But beyond that, I think it's really going to come down to whoever flashes early in the season. And honestly, one guy that I can see flashing early in the season is Gavin Sawchuk, because that's the one guy more so than anybody else in that room that has legit breakaway home run speed. And so if against UTEP or against Kent State, he hits the hole and takes it the distance for a touchdown of 60 or 70 yards, one, that's going to immediately endear him to the fan base. And secondly, that's probably going to be enough to start getting him additional looks, not just in that particular game, but in the games to follow. You go up to Lincoln on September 17th. Maybe Sawchuk gets 8-10 carries in that game. And maybe things just start to ramp up and build upon, he builds upon the success he has game after game to the point where he's starting to legitimately vulture touches from Gray as opposed to just being a change of pace guy. So I think if there's one guy that has the potential more so than anybody else to really make his presence felt early in the season, I would go with Gavin Sawchuk. But it wouldn't shock me if you saw Tawi Walker or Javonte Barnes or Marcus Major do something similar. If they if they take their share of the touches in those first couple games and average 5-6 yards a carry, prove that they can move the football via the ground, whether between the tackles or outside. Any way you slice it, yes, the Sooners have a very, very deep and very capable backfield. And kind of like the conversation we were having about the secondary, right? Even if you can't really point to who it's going to be that emerges, somebody's going to emerge, and that Oklahoma is going to be in really, really good hands at the running back position, regardless of whether it's Gray, Sawchuk, Barnes, Major, Walker that ends up dominating the carries.
Yeah, I honestly, I want to see Gavin Sawchuk break away, just one big run early in the season, because I've seen him live a couple of times, and it's crazy to watch that speed when he hits the corner, because he just has another gear that nobody else has. And I want the fans to see that early on and just get a taste of what they could have for the next 3 or 4 years, just with that speed. Look, let's talk about just the program in general right now, the excitement around the program. And on the flip side, maybe just kind of the anger, the irritability around the program. And I think that you can stem that back to a lot of national pundits, Stuart Mandel, dropping a little bit of stupidity on people like today. Did you see that? Did you see how stupid?
We all saw it.
What is the Athletic hurting that bad that you have to have just the biggest dumbass take of all time?
I mean, Brandon, the Athletic got bought out by a legacy media entity, by a newspaper. So
yeah, New York Times. That's true.
So to answer your question, yes,
fair enough.
They are hurting that bad.
But look, still, I mean, do you have to be that stupid? Like the guy, and he's like trying to defend himself. Like I put a lot of thought in it. Did you? The only thing you said about Oklahoma and the reason why they were going to be 7-5 and 5-4, and mind you, he also said Nebraska was going to lose to North Dakota and then beat Oklahoma the very next week. What? Like, I put a lot of thought in it. No, the phrase that he said of why Oklahoma will be 7-5 is they're replacing a lot of parts. Well, so are a lot of the other people you had that were going to go 10-1 and 11-1. They didn't recruit as well as Oklahoma, but you got to get those clicks. You got to piss off the biggest and most, I guess, angry fan base on Twitter is arguably Oklahoma. And they do that. They do this because they get a reaction out of me. They get a reaction out of you. They get a reaction out of everybody because it's so stupid. You can't help but react to it. And he's a guy that used to have decent takes. But when you're, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, but when you're reporting for your job and trying to maintain something that is just like falling, you do whatever you can do to make that happen. But, and I guess that means integrity goes out the window and actual thought and foresight and what you do as a job goes out the window. Parker, you got anything to say on this? I feel like I'm the only one ranting here.
I feel like it was an ill-informed opinion on Stuart Mandel's part.
Yes.
To say the very least. And it seemed like once Twitter got a hold of it, once OU Twitter in particular got a hold of it and started to expose some of the flaws in the logic, i.e., how do you reconcile a non-conference loss for OU and a non-conference loss for Nebraska? At that point, Stewart could have come out and said, hey, you know what? I got this wrong. I'll take the L on it. I'll do better next time. But he just kept digging the hole, man. Just kept digging the hole, and I'm frozen. But just kept digging the hole to the point where he just every single time he tweeted, it just looked worse and worse and worse and worse on him. Which I don't know, man. I'm not one of those that puts a whole lot of stock into what the national expectations are for really any program heading into the season, because everybody, here's the thing, everybody has their idea of what the college football playoffs going to look like at the end of the year. Everybody has their idea of who's going to surprise, whether for better or worse. And everybody ends up being wrong to some degree. And that's what makes college football great. It's so unpredictable, right? Like, I very intentionally try to stay away from giving preseason predictions like that, and unless somebody absolutely compels me to. But you're not going to see me put out an article where I say, this team, this team, this team, and this team are making the college football playoff, and here's why, and here are my predictions for how the entire college football season is going to go down. I cover one team. I enjoy talking about that team, and I'm more than happy to discuss that team from any angle that the listeners, the viewers, the audience as a whole would like me to discuss that team. However, I will go back to it. What makes college football awesome is that it's so unpredictable. Josh Pate, our national host of the Late Kick on 24/7 Sports, just named his fall game tour the Any Given Saturday tour. That's what college football is about. Any given Saturday, man. That's what makes it special. And I don't want to jack with that. And I understand that there are some people that are in a position where they have to put stuff out preseason. They have to make predictions. It's what their listenership, viewership, their audience wants. That's fine. It's just not my speed. And I would much rather just watch everything play out in front of me, keep my opinions and keep my takes on the whole, not exclusive to the team that I cover, but very much oriented around the team that I cover primarily, and just allow college football to unfold in front of me over the course of 3 to 4 months in the fall. That's what I enjoy about the college football season, is just watching the craziness year after year. And whether you have constants from one year to the next, and the biggest constant over the last 15 years has been Alabama, there will always be those constants, but every year you are in for an immense amount of surprises, like Cincinnati in the playoff last year. And whether that's a team making the run of the CFP or just the outcome of a single game, like we all are hanging on the edge of our seats circa mid to late October every single year, waiting for that huge upset that we're all rooting for, not because we have anything against that team that's ranked high in the standings or in the polls, excuse me, but because that's just what college football is about. Chaos, upsets, any given Saturday.
So I guess with that in mind, this weekend there's some college football that's going to be going on, and I know we're all pretty excited about the possibilities. Isn't Nebraska Northwestern playing in Ireland?
It is being played in Ireland, yes, that's such a weird game to play in Ireland. Like, you would figure if you're going to play a college football game in Ireland, it's going to be a Notre Dame game, right? The Fighting Irish. That makes a lot of sense, but no, instead they're going to have two teams that were 3-9 last year go play a football game overseas. It'll be an interesting trial run. We'll see how much Ireland cares about a college football game between two teams that were 3-9 last year. So a guinea pig in a certain sense.
It's just not like, and look, Nebraska fans, don't shoot me. It just doesn't have the oomph to it. Like, I would get it if it was like Oklahoma, Notre Dame, or something to that extent, because I think that would have some pizzazz to it, and I like that word, by the way, pizzazz. It has some pizzazz to it. It really would. Like, it would be an attention getter for even the people over in Ireland, because they would understand, first off, they're Catholic. So the Notre Dame Fighting Irish to be over there, the Catholic school, the worldwide notoriety that school bestows upon itself is well known, right? Like, so that would get people in the door, would get people in the stadium. You add the intrigue of one of the all-time greats in Oklahoma, I think that would be fun. I can't see Oklahoma ever doing something like that, because I don't think they're in need for that. I think this was Nebraska and Northwestern really needing eyes on them. Look at us. This is our program. We're in the middle of everything now as far as college football goes for 1 week. All anybody's going to be talking about is Northwestern, Nebraska. Any other time during the season that's put on the schedule, people on instantly put their head on a pillow and fall asleep because it just doesn't sound like a good game to watch. It doesn't, does it? Like, it's not like you would not. I mean, I would watch it, but that's because we love college football.
Well,
but
and look, the NFL plays in Wembley Stadium every year and sells it out and gets a ton of fan engagement overseas. I don't know if we'll be able to say the same for a college football game between Nebraska and Northwestern. So we're going to find out real quick whether it compares to the NFL at Wembley Stadium or whether it equates to jumping the shark.
Yeah. So who do you think's going to win that game before we get to the questions real quick?
Nebraska. I'll give the edge to Nebraska. I mean, look, I'm not joking. If they lose that game, they might just leave Scott Frost in Ireland because they beat one Big Ten team last year and it was Northwestern. So if you turn around and lose in week 0,
was Tennessee or USC that happened? Was that USC that they just left him on the tarmac?
No, yeah, they fired him on the tarmac. But no, like if you lose in week 0 to the one team in your conference that you did not lose to a year ago, you're beyond walking on eggshells at that point if you're Scott Frost.
No doubt. We have Zach Williams saying Hicks is going to A&M, Stone's going to Florida, and Cunningham's going to a USC. And I would bet against all of those, to be honest with you.
You would bet against them or you wouldn't?
I would bet against every one of those.
I just want to make sure we were clear on that.
Oh my goodness. That's come on, Zach. You're better than that. You're better than that take. Look, I don't know what did you read the Steve Wiltfong Hicks thing? Cause I didn't get the whole A&M thing. I got it read like it was Oklahoma.
It definitely read like it was Oklahoma, but
that was my best visit ever. I'm going to visit there again during the fall. I might move my commitment date up now. Like, that read Oklahoma. Yeah, he said he's close to the coaches at A&M, but it didn't read anything else other than like I didn't get A&M out of that at all.
As a general rule, if you cut your list down, and David Hicks he has a final 7. As a general rule, if you have a final 7, you're close with all of those coaches at all of those schools, right? It did read like Oklahoma's the school to beat. And
yes,
that's something that we've been saying ever since DJ Hicks took the visit at the party at the Palace, Brandon. Yep. And so I don't know. I don't feel like you need to have crimson colored glasses on to be reading between the lines and seeing those things in the DJ Hicks story. We shall see. We'll see. I guess we'll see more than anything how much proximity comes into play.
Yeah, that's the question.
And we do know that Texas A&M does not hesitate to broker some big time NIL deals if it can help their cause with certain players. And I'm not saying players go to A&M just for the money. Listen, I've talked to dudes who've taken visits to A&M. They say, listen, it's not all about the money down there. That campus is a vibe. But A&M is completely unafraid. They've made no bones about it. And Jimbo can disavow it all he wants, right? But there's a lot of money on the table for any elite player that wants to come play at Texas A&M and is willing to give A&M the time of day.
Yeah, I guess there's a rumor that Petaway is visiting Texas for the Bama game. I haven't heard that one, so that would be news to me. Have you heard that rumor?
I have not heard that rumor. And if that were the case, I think we know what would happen, right? Because Ashton Kozar was the one that messed around and found out. So now everybody knows.
Wouldn't it be crazy if Ashton Kozar started getting recruited by Oklahoma again? Wouldn't that be crazy?
It sure would be
interesting.
Crazy.
It would be crazy, wouldn't it? Let's get to the questions here. Let's see here.
We had somebody at the very, very beginning asking about Malachi Coleman. And that is
yeah, go ahead. You talk about that. That's your thing, not mine. On that.
Here's what I can tell you right now about the Coleman situation His commitment date, by the way, just to provide some clarity, it is October 22nd, not October 15th. I do expect that he will visit Oklahoma at some point before that decision is made. I'm not sure right now whether that will be an official visit or an unofficial visit. Now, from what I was told in speaking to a couple of program sources last night, the Sooners wanted to make Malachi Coleman's June 10th visit an official. He said, no, let's keep it an unofficial. And so the Sooners ended up spending 35 official visits earlier this summer. And so that's put them on a crunch here down the stretch as far as who can use official visits between now and the end of the 2023 cycle. Because you think about it, you have 51, right? And you've already used 35. You got to save officials for guys like DJ Hicks, Derek LeBlanc, Keon Brown, Josiah Wagner, Cecilia Kana, Jordan Renaud. So you're already up in the low to mid 40s. That doesn't leave you a whole lot of wiggle room. And so I think if there's a way to get Malachi Coleman back on campus, or basically if they can convince Malachi Coleman to come back to campus on his own dime, that's probably what they would like to do. But if worst comes to worst, and the only way to get the kid back to campus is to get him on an official, I think the Sooners are going to do that, because you're talking about a top 100 player nationally, and one of the guys that has risen the fastest over the last few months up the recruiting rankings. So as I evaluate Malachi Coleman's recruitment right now, the big players to me are Nebraska and Oklahoma, and there's some belief that maybe the interest in USC may be pretty real here. Where I stand on it, I get the sense that Coleman's going to want to play offense more so than defense. And so that to me, that presents an intriguing case for Ole Miss down the stretch, because he's going to take an official visit there on October 1st. And apparently, like, the interest there on Coleman's end with Ole Miss isn't super serious right now, but he is going to take that official visit. It's one of those trips that he had an expressed desire to take, and Ole Miss wants him to play receiver. Oklahoma wants him at tight end. Nebraska just wants him. And they want him to catch passes on offense. They've said we could use you situationally on defense. That's where Nebraska's at. Obviously, Nebraska has a little bit more of an element of desperation than the other schools recruiting Coleman, right? For obvious reasons. The coaching staff may not still be there at the end of the year. That's a possibility that's very much on the table and must be considered. Now, I am not breaking news in saying this either. Malachi Coleman has said these words to our Steve Wiltfong. If not for Mickey Joseph, Nebraska wouldn't be on Malachi Coleman's top list. So that leads me to believe that he's going to look for an avenue to not have to stay home, if at all possible. And if it makes sense, if Nebraska rips off 8-9 wins this fall and Scott Frost maintains, or rather regains a little bit of job security, then it's probably a pretty open and shut deal, and Coleman ends up staying home and being a Husker. But if Nebraska has the season that I think a lot of folks are expecting, which is another middling to below average one that may or may not result in a low end bowl berth, then I think Coleman's going to leave. And at that point, Oklahoma's got as good a shot as anybody. I would say a better shot than anybody. And I think his interest right now is strongest in Oklahoma among the schools that are not Nebraska. And I also believe that just knowing his family dynamics and knowing that situation, it's probably the type of deal where he ends up staying closer to home if there is a plausible avenue to make that happen. Obviously, that makes Nebraska a really natural fit. Nebraska is a really natural fit for a lot of reasons. The one thing that could undermine Nebraska's pursuit of Coleman, and the reason he's not committed to Nebraska yet, is because they still got to win football games. And that coaching staff has to keep their respective jobs. And so if it isn't Nebraska, I think Oklahoma's very much in the best position here. And I think the first few weeks of this season are going to be very telling in that regard. And they're going to determine a lot as far as the outcome of this recruitment. Pay attention most specifically to that September 17th date when Oklahoma comes up to Lincoln, right? Because that could be the game. And I don't want to put too much emphasis on one particular day or moment in time, but let's be honest with ourselves here. That could be the game where the Huskers just have their collective will broken. They could get decimated by Oklahoma in that game. And if that happens, all bets are off, man. So Malachi Coleman's going to commit on the 22nd. As of right now, here's what I think is most telling to me. Most everybody up in the state of Nebraska believes that Malachi Coleman is going to be a Husker, except the people that are close to him and know him. They're all like, I don't know. I don't know where he ends up. And so it's not often that you get to this point in the cycle and you have a recruitment that is still wide open, but that's where things stand right now. And Oklahoma has a very appealing pitch in that they want Malachi Coleman to come play offense. They're going to win football games under Brent Venables. They're going to be competing for conference titles and potentially national titles within the next few years. And they offer an outstanding opportunity for you to be developed and blaze a trail to the NFL as a pass catcher. So I am quietly confident in Oklahoma's chances down the stretch here. I think the next month is going to determine quite a bit in this race.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. I think, and I want Oklahoma fans to know this, like straight up, outside of Jordan Renaud, Cecilia Kana, and maybe one or two other guys, you're not going to see a whole lot of official visits in Norman. You'll see unofficial. You see a lot of unofficial visits. You'll see a lot of kids on the sidelines, probably hundreds, but they'll all be there on unofficial visits, which means they paid their own way. Oklahoma gave them 2 or 3 tickets to get into the ball game, and they paid their own way to get up there. Official visits, obviously, for those that don't know, Oklahoma would pay for their food, their room and board, their travel, the tickets, everything that they do while they're in Norman for, I think it's 72 hours, right? That's the rule, right? 72 hours, correct? Something
like
70. No, it's not.
It's like 54, I think.
Yeah, it's something weird.
Something
it's like 50,
odd
it's
like that.
Yeah, it's something like that. Almost like 60 hours, something like that. Yeah. Anyways, point being is that Oklahoma will pay for all that. So Jordan Nod, September 19th. I think it's like October 15th or something like that, or 17th or 15th or something is Cecilia Kana in Oklahoma. Outside of those two and maybe one or two other guys that are going to make a decision prior to all this, Bedlam is going to be when all the official visits show up. So you could see like 12 official visits at Bedlam and then knock out the rest of their official visits that they have. Because I think Oklahoma wants to be completely done with all of it by December National Signing Day. I think they want to focus on transfers in the 2024 class and really going and doing in-homes with all their commits and stopping by the schools for 2024 and making that their goal. And ultimately they want the 24 class to be better than 23, which is, that's crazy to say because of how good 23 potentially could be. On the flip side, in another recruiting note, we were asked, Parker, what is Oklahoma's chances with T.A. Cunningham? What is Oklahoma's chances with David Stone? And what is Oklahoma's chances with David Hicks? And yeah, I would say about 60% for David Hicks, 65% David Hicks. I would say 75 for David Stone.
I would even go higher than that with David Stone.
Yeah, well, I'm always a cautious one with the leeway there. He's down there at IMG. I know I would probably say 80, 85% with David Stone, but still the point being is I think they're in a very good spot for both of the Davids. I mean, very, very good spot with both the Davids. As far as T.A. Cunningham goes, it's kind of the outlier. He does have a fantastic relationship with Todd Bates. I talked to T.A. quite a bit. He had to move from Georgia to California. People want to say it had a lot to do with some family things. Let me put it to y'all like this. Like there was some personal family things that went on. That is nobody's business really. And it's an unfortunate thing. It's a sad thing. But he had to move to California, and he chose the school he chose for obvious reasons. But when you look at that kid, he's from Georgia. I think Oklahoma sits in a really good spot because it would be in the middle of everybody from California to Georgia to be able to go see him. They wouldn't have to fly one way all the way across the country to the other. It would be, you'd have to go halfway across the country. So if you look at it like that, I think Oklahoma has a decent shot. But at the same time, if you're going to want me to put a percentage on it, 35, 40% maybe. I mean, that's about as high as I could go with that. And it may not even be that high if we're being realistic. So we'll see. But I think 2 out of 3, if Oklahoma hits on that, and then they go get Zadavian Sims, and they end up with Kavion Henderson at the edge, and they end up with, I'm trying to think of another 2024 edge rusher, Parker. Okoye. That's a great start to a class. It's a great defensive line class.
It is.
And I think they would have better. And we didn't even Nigel Smith. I mean, they literally could have 5 of the top.
Yeah, let me throw another one 20, in there. Williams Nwaneri, who could be a 5-star in the next couple months.
Yeah. They could have 6 of the top 30 defensive linemen if they really wanted to next year. They're in that good a position there. Hey, Todd Bates and Brent Venables, I think Oklahoma fans need to wrap their head around this. They're different. They're a different level when it comes to D-line recruiting. They're just different. What do you think, Parker, about those 3?
With Stone and Hicks, I'm confident in OU's chances. Quite confident, I would say, especially in Stone's case. With T.A. Cunningham, I think a lot is going to have to do, and maybe this is the most obvious take in the world, but I think a lot is going to be dictated by what happens with his Los Alamitos teammates and Malachi Nelson and Mekhi Lemon, because they're currently committed to USC. But man, if you're following Malachi Nelson's recruitment, it's gotten hairy lately, hasn't it? And if he ends up going anywhere else and Lincoln Riley can't build the fence around the LA Metro, then it's almost as if the doors open wide for T.A. Cunningham, because as long as he's at Los Alamitos, USC is going to have the inside track for obvious reasons. The second that Malachi Nelson goes elsewhere and or Mekhi Lemon goes elsewhere, man, that opens things up. It really does. And keep coming back to it. Todd Bates is really good at his job. Yeah. And I think what is most encouraging, and we just listed off a whole bunch of names there, Brandon, what's most encouraging about it is that regardless of whether T.A. Cunningham is a Sooner or not, Oklahoma's going to sign an elite defensive line class. Yes, and you can mix and match, and you can throw names into the class calculator. You can put together any combination or conglomeration of names. Any way you slice it, it's going to be a really good class for OU. And there are going to be a couple guys that are capstones, that are crown jewels. I don't think you're looking at just David Stone being that guy, even though you and I both have him crystal ball to Oklahoma. I think we both firmly believe he's going to be a Sooner in the end. That won't be the only 5-star defensive lineman they get. It won't. And I don't know if the other guy is Williams Nwaneri. I don't know if it's Nigel Smith. I don't know if it's T.A. Cunningham. Could be any one of those guys or a guy that I didn't mention right there. But I expect right now that the Sooners are going to sign.
Sims is right there too. Top 50.
I expect right now that the Sooners are going to sign multiple 5-star defensive linemen in the 2024 class.
No, they're going to build upon what they've already done in 2023 and what they could finish in 2023 with. So I think with both classes, you had the transfer portal to everything. Look, what you see now of the Venables defense is going to be just a baseline of what is to come. And it's going to take some time. I think Oklahoma fans want like this natural boom, boom, boom. It's going to happen. And I think with the talent Oklahoma has on the front seven, with the transfer portal guys they got, I think there's a chance that defensive front is very, very good this year. But I know that it's not up to snuff talent-wise what Venables and Todd Bates are used to, and they're working on that. Like I've talked to numerous people that have said this year's class is vital for the defensive front for Oklahoma for years to come. And they're not just talking about the high school ranks. They're talking about maybe going and dipping and grabbing a few guys to come and add depth and talent to the defensive front in the transfer portal. So everything that they do and have done up to this point has been just a deal where they feel it is a make or break deal for this staff and for this program moving forward defensively. They think they have to hit on these guys. And that's why you've seen Oklahoma be so aggressive. And so I guess they've been successful with everything they've done on the defensive front so far. And speaking of defensive fronts, and I know nobody said this in here, but I remembered, got to give a shout out to our guy, Ricardo LeBlanc. So I know it's almost an hour in and we're finally doing it, but hey, we did it. We gave him the shout out. Let's finish up with a few more questions real quick. There was a really good one earlier. And freshman tight ends. How have they developed so far? I know for me, I've heard Llewellyn and Caden Helms have come on really well. They're two different styles. One's more of a blocker, more of an H-back, more of a kind of a short yardage, play action pass type tight end, more of a grinder, and that's who Llewellyn is. Llewellyn may grow into being an offensive tackle at some point, potentially could, with his frame, with his size. He could be a Lane Johnson type guy at the end of the day. So we'll see about that. Even, who else was a tight end when they came in? Gabe Eichert. Gabe Eichert was a tight end when he came to Oklahoma as well, and people don't remember that, but he was. Yeah, I think he has the potential to do that, but he also has the potential to be a really good tight end. Caden Helms on the other side, he's more split out. He's more of kind of a Y type in the spread, a Y receiver in the spread, which is more of a bigger body inside receiver guy. He's done really well. He's turned a lot of heads, and he may actually get some run this year in some crucial moments in a game. And when I say crucial, I'm saying not in mop-up duty, like actual first, second quarter type deal, third quarter, he could get some playing time in meaningful snaps. So that's what I've heard so far from it, Parker. I don't know if you've heard anything different or if you want to add to that.
No. I think you covered it all. I don't have much to tack on.
Yeah. Finally, I guess let's talk about the Evans deal real quick, and let's talk about Renaud real quick before we get off here. I know people want to talk about those two a lot. They questions about both those. There's a lot of back and forth. They're battling two of the top SEC schools for both of those guys in Alabama and Georgia, depending on the player. With Evans, he's going to announce Friday. I don't know the specific time just yet. He's supposed to announce on Friday. It's a Georgia-Oklahoma battle, but Oklahoma's been doing everything they can. And I have a big note on that on OU Insider VIP. If you want to go and check that out, if you're not a member, you should, because a lot of our members, we've grown almost 2,000 members in the last few months, and it's been pretty awesome. So I want to thank you guys. And we are a big site. We're one of the biggest on 247. And so you guys are just awesome, by the way. I mean, it's been amazing. Parker can vouch. It's been a really awesome last 8-9 months for us. So Evans it's a conundrum because I'll say it. I thought he was one of the locks, and Parker and I both can confirm that at one point we thought he was one of the locks, and everybody was telling us he was one of the locks from people we talked to. At this point, we don't know what's going to happen there. It's kind of trending towards Georgia, and I put a crystal ball into it for Georgia. Have you switched yours yet?
I've not switched mine yet.
You're riding it out. You got bigger balls.
I'm holding
than me.
out. Like, here's the thing. Here's the thing, man. Here's what it boils down to for me. You got a lot stronger pitch if you're Oklahoma than you do if you're Georgia, especially to a wide receiver of Evans' ilk. Like, Georgia has never had a 1,000-yard receiver in program history, Brandon. Oklahoma, especially over the last 10, 15 years, has churned out NFL receiver after NFL receiver after NFL receiver. And not only that, but guys that have set school and FBS records at wide receiver. And so I think, and this isn't to say that he doesn't end up at Georgia, but I can see Oklahoma turning the tide very late in the game here if they can say the right things to Anthony Evans and present the right case for their institution. Because again, when you look at Oklahoma's pedigree as far as wide receivers are concerned versus Georgia's pedigree, it's not close, right? So all you got to do is convince Anthony Evans, hey, listen, you can go to Georgia, you can be a wide receiver there, or you can come to Oklahoma and you can be the next Hollywood Brown here. Because Anthony Evans has that kind of speed. It's not a secret. He's a sub 4.4, sub 10.3 in the 100 meters guy. He can run like the freaking wind. And so if you're the Oklahoma staff, man, that's what you're leveraging right now, even as things continually start to trend more and more towards Georgia, is, hey, there's no better spot for a wide receiver than the University of Oklahoma. Come here, stay close to home, excel, be a part of what we're building.
Yeah, and Sean Stapleton, who lives in Georgia, said that the Georgia insiders say this could be the best offense they've ever had, and I would say this: their best offense they've ever had will never come close to what Oklahoma's produced offensively. And that's just being straight up honest. That's the facts. When you go look at offensive players produced over the years, like Parker just said, it's not even close. It is not. On the flip side, defensively, Georgia is Oklahoma offense is what Georgia is defensively. And so every program has like their niche, right? Like, so another thing I think is being just totally overlooked here, and maybe being overlooked by Evans in this. I don't know. Because I don't know the pitch that's going on. I know people want to say money. There's not a lot of money being thrown around for the number 400 player in the country. I'm sorry. Like, this isn't like everybody wants to if it's a flip and it doesn't happen and go their way, it's automatically money. They're not throwing around thousands and thousands of dollars for Anthony Evans. They're just not. I'm telling you, Parker, would you agree with that? I just don't see that being the case.
No, I mean, you're right.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's not the end all for everything, folks. I promise you. But something that's not being talked about, in my opinion, is the fact that Oklahoma has potentially the top quarterback in 2023 committed to him. And who's Georgia's quarterback? Do they have a quarterback in this class? And that's something like, for me, I'm just like, that's what you said. Oklahoma has a lot of things they can pitch and go for. The one thing that people don't know, and I'm going to tell them now, is that Evan's mother is from Savannah, Georgia. So they obviously have a lot of family out in Georgia. And I think that's playing a big, big part in this recruitment. And it's something that is maybe understated a lot. I think it needs to be stated more. And it's probably on Parker and myself for not putting that out there more. Like, that is one of the big pitches that Georgia has, is the family aspect. Now, on the flip side of that, his family in Texas gets to drive up and watch him play, which is his mom and dad, every weekend, because they're going to be playing in Texas or Oklahoma. So they're going to have a short drive to wherever they're going to play in Texas, or they're going to have a 5.5 hour, 6 hour drive to Oklahoma and watch him play. And they can spend the whole weekend up there. His mom is in the Navy. His dad's retired Navy. So they have options here. And I think this is closer than people think. And I think after the commit happens, I don't think it's over. Honestly, one way or the other. If he commits to Oklahoma, Georgia's going to keep pushing. If he commits to Georgia, Oklahoma is going to keep pushing. Names that, if that does happen, and people asked that earlier, Parker, who is Oklahoma going to go after if Evans doesn't pick Oklahoma? Micah Tease. I think they'll try and swing back in with Cole Adams.
That's probably not happening.
Yeah, but they're going to try. Micah Tease is a player. Wouldn't it be crazy if they went after Ashton Cozart again? I keep saying that. Wouldn't it be crazy?
That would actually be crazy. Yes.
Yes, it would be crazy.
Not saying impossible, but yes, it would be crazy.
Yeah, I don't think it would be impossible, but it might be crazy.
I also feel like Ashton Kozart would have to be the one to initiate that, because I really don't feel like BV and this staff are going to beg somebody to come back after he turned tail on him and headed up to Oregon.
Maybe you're right. Maybe he would have to be the one to initiate the contact. And so how about who was the other one that I named the other day? Do you remember all the names that I put out there? I can't remember them all. One of them was
Mikhail Harrison Pilot was one guy
Mikhail
we talked
Harrison
about, but
Pilot
again,
was another
he's just
one. Yep.
OU's not going to wait.
January.
Yeah,
nope.
OU's not going to wait that long. Another name you threw out that I thought was very intriguing was Noble Johnson, who's currently committed to Clemson.
Caden Lee. Yeah, Caden Lee. Noble Johnson, Clemson. Now, I put that one out there. Yeah, I put Noble Johnson out there as well. And then there was an Oklahoma State commit. I can't remember the name specifically, but Cameron Hurd. I think those are the guys Oklahoma probably will. Like, if those 7 guys, I think, would be the guys that they go after. So I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they pull that out and what they decide. Or they're just going to go the transfer portal route, which, if you're smart, just like at a camp setting, and I think I was talking to a source, they said, look, when you go to camps, the biggest position is always wide receiver, right? It's the same thing in the portal, because everybody wants a ball and there's only one of them to go around. So there's always going to be talent in the portal at wide receiver for you to go get, especially if you're Oklahoma.
Yeah, this is not to diminish anything or anybody, but unless you're truly special at that position, wide receivers are a dime a dozen. You know, that's the reality of it. These days, you can go, if you lose a wide receiver, if you lose a receiver commit, for instance, or you have a guy hit the transfer portal, you can generally turn around and get somebody that's comparable in terms of their talent level. Now, there are some dudes that are generational. Those dudes are few and far between. Like, how miraculous is it that Oklahoma got Jaden Gibson as late in the cycle as they did? Because that dude is going to be a special college football player. But he's kind of the exception, not the rule. Right?
He's a unicorn.
Yeah, those are you get a guy like that every few years who moves the way he does, has the ball skills that he does, and oh, by the way, is 6'5", pushing 6'6". But more often than not, a lot of wide receivers every single year are very much cut from the same cloth. And so it's not that difficult, if you lose somebody, to go turn around and grab somebody else that you feel just as confident in.
Yeah, no, wide receiver is that one position that is just, it's easier to go get somebody that you feel is, like you said, comparable. Finally, before we close this out, be sure to pay attention on Friday, because there is some potential good news that could pop. So we'll just leave it at that. We'll have you covered on OU Insider for sure. That's going to do it, I think, for this version of the OU Insider under the version. Yeah, that's going to do it for this version of OU Insider under the visor, Sooners YouTube Live. If you're not a member of OU Insider, you can join now for $1 for the first month and $9.95 afterwards. Or you can join for $75 right now. You get a whole year. You get the whole football season. You get National Signing Day, both of them. You get all the spring visits. You'll get all the spring stuff, the spring football, the spring game, all the visits that are going to happen there, all the official visits in May, June, July, all the party in the palace, the Champion barbecue stuff. Everything will be covered, and it'll last up until whatever date you sign up in August or September. Promise you, you're going to want it. Plus, whenever you sign up after the first year, you get Paramount Plus for free. You stay with OU Insider and 247 Sports for a year. We tack on another $100 in value to your membership, and you get Paramount Plus for free. And Top Gun Maverick's going to be streaming here pretty soon. I believe it comes out in September. Oh, no, it comes out. Did it come out today or tomorrow? I can't remember. It's supposed to come out here pretty soon, streaming. I'm pretty stoked about it. Not going to lie. But anything that Paramount, you get 1883, 1931. You get the Jeremy Renner, the prison movie. You get the King, the Tulsa King with Stallone. Like, you get all 2,000 or 20,000, however many movies Paramount Plus has put up. You get all of the MTV stuff. You get Comedy Central. I mean, anything that is Viacom or CBS is going to be on Paramount Plus, so you can stream all the sports stuff. It is a fantastic app. I'm on it all the time. I watch it all the time. I love it. So that comes with it after the first year of OU Insider VIP. And if you are OU Insider VIP, you also get 250 VIP sites on 24/7 Sports. Think about that. Not just OU Insider. You don't just get to go, you pay for OU Insider and that's all you get. Nah, man. You get to go see USC, Oklahoma State, Alabama, Texas. Like, you can go see all their VIP stuff. It is awesome. You can go troll if you want to. You'll probably get banned, but be at your leisure. If you want, that's what you want to go do it. Have fun. And you get to talk to thousands and thousands of intense Oklahoma fans daily on OU Insider VIP. And you get to ask us questions daily. We have do chats. We have VIP video. We have VIP notes up every day. So how vague I was about the program stuff that I talked about with Venables working on it and Thad Turnipseed working on things. It's on OU Insider VIP right now. And it's big news. It's very big news. You're going to want to go and check that out on OU Insider VIP because there's some things going on there. And Parker has notes from yesterday. A member of the OU team is not on the team anymore. Somebody took his number, and that's how we noticed and did some digging on it. And Parker found out, has it up there. I have a lot of VIP practice notes, insider notes, position battles, all that type of stuff's going on. We have that there. We have recruiting notes, all the recruiting battles going on. We have notes on that. Tons of sourced information that you won't find anywhere else on OU Insider VIP. And we do it daily. We don't just do it once, twice, 3 times a week. It is daily notes for you all, daily chats for you guys, daily questions being answered. And we can't thank you guys enough for being on OU Insider VIP. We pride ourselves on being the most open members of the media. And we love that. We love being open. We love being able and being approachable by you to you all, and hope that you guys feel the same way. So thank you guys so much for joining us on this. We hope to see you guys on OU Insider VIP board. We hope to see you guys next week on this YouTube channel, as it's going to be game week. So we're going to talk a lot about game stuff, and we hope to see you guys on our podcast, and you guys listen to it. It's just dropped on all the platforms. The OU Insider Under the Visor podcast is up, and it's long, it's in depth, and it's lengthy, and you guys are going to love it. You can pause it, start it on the way to work, listen to it while you're working out. Doesn't matter. We hope you guys give it a listen and you guys like it. So thank you guys so much for joining us. For Parker Thune, my name is Brandon Drumm. You guys have a blessed night.